So like we said, tonight is a big topic, and it's all about lack of role models and past relationships and how that plays out in our relationships that we're in right now, and the impact that these things have, like not having the role models and past relationships, how they influence our relationships.
Yeah.
And we're going to take a look at it from a context of baggage.
Yeah. We all have baggage.
Yes, and we all bring a lot of baggage. And whether you like it, whether you want to admit it or not, we all have baggage. It doesn't matter if we had a great upbringing, we had everything, our parents were great, we still have baggage. Even if our relationship so-called went well and we didn't really argue, we all have baggage. And that's just part of some people's baggage, that they don't deal with their baggage and everything is just okay and it's fine and it's all okay and nothing really gets dealt with.
Yeah.
But we all have it.
Yes.
And it's going to be, for some people, a bit touchy. It's going to maybe push some people's buttons tonight and trigger some stuff.
Things.
And it's all normal, it's all part of it. This is what we're actually here to do, is to trigger some stuff for you and for you to start looking at what buttons got pushed, because this is all playing out in your life.
Yeah. And
it's really important to deal with those because they're playing out in your relationship and the people around you.
And also, with baggage, like what we see and in our experience of relationships is that, you know, relationships bring out what's already inside of you, which is your baggage, your triggers. So it's not that the relationship is the cause. You might gather proof along the way of those beliefs and what you believe to be true, and that just adds to your baggage. So like you're just, you know, carrying all this baggage more and more into the trunk. But yeah, like you have baggage.
Yeah, and it's a great example. And this Wayne Dye shared this metaphor about an orange. I don't know if you guys have heard it before, but I really loved it, and something that really made a difference in our relationship of how I could view myself. And he spoke about when we squeeze an orange, and we squeeze it, and it's no matter who squeezes it, if Annalise squeezes it, or if I squeeze it, or if someone else squeezes it, no matter what we do it or how we squeeze it, what comes out of it? Right? Orange juice. Orange comes out.
Orange comes out. Orange juice.
So orange juice comes out, and it doesn't matter whether no matter who squeezes it, orange juice comes out. And why? Because that's what's inside, right? But what happens to us when your partner squeezes you, or your mum or your dad squeezes you or pushes your buttons in a certain way? What comes out? Sometimes there's anger, there's frustration, there's hate, there's blame, there's resentment. That comes out no matter who pushes those buttons.
Yeah.
But then we go, oh, if they were different, if they pushed those buttons differently, that wouldn't come out. But it's already inside you. And then they push a button and that comes out. So it's like, how do we learn when they push a button, love comes out? Nothing but love shows up. And this is what conscious relationships are. And this is a new template of relationship. It's like, no matter who pushes your buttons, what comes out is love. And that's a journey to be on. It doesn't happen overnight.
No.
Like what we're going to share tonight. You can't just be shifted and changed and yay, I'm done. It's like, it's a journey, it's a process.
And it's a constant journey. It's not like, oh, I've done enough work and I've done enough inner healing or whatever. Like, it doesn't end.
Yeah. And that's the exciting thing, because there's always levels.
There's layers.
Layers and layers of what things you deal with. And like some things that we thought we dealt with, and then we come into this relationship, we're like, holy shit, there's another layer.
No.
And that's the beauty of a conscious relationship, when people, again, from like last week we spoke about this, when two people are committed to their own growth, that's the most important thing that you can have in a relationship. Two people committed to their own growth, and that when that's number one, like so much can happen in that relationship. Yeah.
So do you want to share about lack of role models? And what that looks like?
Definitely. And it's like when we grow up, we learn from our first people that we learn about role models and how relationships are and how we communicate, it all comes from our parents or our caretakers, whoever takes care of you. So they're our role models for how a relationship looks.
Exactly.
And how we act in it, how we be in a relationship, our parents. Yeah. Whether we like to or not, but that's who we learn from.
We don't know any other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the important thing to see is, because sometimes it can be so hard because we're like, wish our parents taught us better.
Or we're different.
We're different, if they were just better or any of that variation. But we've got to come to understanding and have compassion of, like, our parents didn't know any better. They only did the best they could because they learned from their parents.
Yeah, and from their parents.
And their parents. And it's like this whole lineage.
Ancestral stuff that gets passed down, and then you're left with it as well.
Yeah, and that's why it's important. We see it's so important. Because if we don't deal with our stuff that our parents pass on to us, it's not like they intentionally go, here's my shit,
here's my baggage.
Take it and you take it on, right? It's all on a subconscious level, it just naturally happens.
And it's in our DNA.
Yes. It goes way beyond what we see and perceive. It's just, it's there.
Yeah.
So when we can go, this is why we do what we do, because we don't want to pass our stuff to our kids.
Yeah.
Because we see the importance of it stopping with us. Like, they're going to have their stuff. We can't stop that. They're going to have their baggage and stuff's going to come up for them. But it's like, we don't want to pass on our stuff. We want to be responsible for our stuff and learn to communicate in a way that we're an example for our children also.
Yes.
So they know what it is to communicate consciously, how to communicate consciously, how to communicate effectively. Mm-hmm. And it all starts with us. Yes. And do you want to say anything about that?
I think I'll share just my experience because, the children were the reason why I had to make a big change in my life. So looking at the example of my parents, they were together for about, I think, 10 years. And they divorced when I was 16. But throughout that time, they fought a lot, but they tried to do it so that we couldn't see it. But as children, they're very sensitive to energy, so they know already what's going on. And I knew, things weren't right. There was tension in the air, and it was very hard for me growing up, in terms of, seeing my parents like that. And they would come to us and say, okay, we're going to try this again. They were going to break up, try again, break up, try again. And, they stayed together for the sake of me and my brother. Because, for whatever reasons they had, they thought it was better that they stayed together, even though it was dysfunctional. They thought that it would be better for them to stay together so that they could keep the family unit together. But it was actually detriment to me growing up, because then I faced a lot of challenges throughout that as an effect to that. And I vowed to myself, when I have children, I'm not going to stay in a relationship that's dysfunctional for the sake of my kids. And then what ended up happening was I was with my children's father for 9 years, and I stayed in that relationship for the kids until one day I got a wake-up call. And I actually saw what I was doing. I took on that pattern from my parents, and I was actually playing that out in my life. And I was trying to make a conscious decision that I wouldn't go down that road. But yet, I found myself in that exact place.
Yeah.
And that was really hard for me to swallow, because I fought so hard not to do that. Yeah. But it just ended up happening anyway. That it wasn't in my control. That's just all I know. That was my role model of what a relationship looks like. So I had no other choice, really. And and
it's just very powerful what you touched on, because whatever we resist within our parents, and this is what Annalee's touching on, is we become exactly like our parents or the total opposite of them. But it's still a version of them. So there's no real you there. So when you're incomplete with your parents, you're consider in some way you are incomplete. Like I said, even if you have a great relationship, because I was on the other side, I had a great relationship with my parents. My parents had an amazing marriage, what I perceived and all that sort of stuff, but there's still incompletion. So what Annalie is touching on is if you're incomplete with your parents, you'll play out their patterns. So whatever you resist in your parents, you'll play out that pattern because that's something you need to learn to love. And it's something you haven't learned to love and see the divinity in whatever happened in your situation growing up.
And I think being in that position, it made me have compassion for where my parents were at. Because I got to be on the side of where my parents were and actually feel what it would have been like for them and how hard it was for them. Yeah. So I could have compassion for that.
Yeah.
But then I could choose different. I didn't have to play that out. And for me, my biggest why was to be an example for the children. And knowing that I had taken on this pattern and played it out again, unconsciously, I thought, what hope for my kids is there, really? If I keep doing this, are they going to end up in the same situation? And I didn't want that for them.
Yeah.
So I decided that the cycle had to stop with me. And that's really where my journey began, I think. So, yeah.
It's really powerful because that's what it is. When we can see that we actually are like our parents, as much as we resist it and go, I'm nothing like it. I start to see as well in our relationship, I ended up exactly like my dad, and I thought I was nothing like my dad. And then I could also have compassion and understanding of my dad's difficulties and struggles and his disconnection of, he was always there. He loved us. I knew he loved us, but it was very hard for him to verbalize it and say it and express it. So I could have compassion and understand, and that's kind of how I played out my relationship. I was very emotionally disconnected. I could kind of be there, but I wasn't there emotionally. And it's something I had to learn and overcome and deal with. And like in doing this work, I have become a total different man. And that's same with Annalie. She has become a total different woman by healing those wounds that we deal with our parents.
Yeah.
And they play out in our relationship because in the relationship we bring those wounds. So when Annalie is talking to me, she's not talking to me. She's talking through her abandoned, 6-year-old girl. So whenever she feels like I'm not listening, or that brings up the trigger for her that was already happening, that's already in her. So it's got nothing to do with me, but those triggers are there from that wounded little girl. And that's same for me. It's like when I have triggers from my, what I had with my parents and being smothered and being too nurtured, and it's like, it's too much for me, so I want to escape and run. But it's got nothing to do with her. It's those triggers that I have within me that I haven't learned to heal and love and accept about myself.
Yes.
So when I started to do that, it had nothing to do with Annalie, and I could love and accept that part and actually let her in and let her nurture me, because it's a beautiful thing when a man can let his woman allow to nurture him and support him.
Yeah. Because
then I can just be.
Yeah.
Without feeling like she's smothering me.
Yeah.
Because it's got nothing to do with her. And this is how we bring this into our relationship. And then there's two wounded children
trying to have a relationship.
And it's so hard because we just bring so much stuff into the relationship that people don't deal with.
Yeah.
And then they try to have a relationship through that. And it just doesn't work.
No.
And then that's where, like what we spoke about last week, there's projections and blame and make fault and make wrong, because it's just two kids having a tantrum.
Yeah.
And
that's like, that's what our parents were doing. They were trying to have a relationship through their wounded children. So if you can see that within your relationship, you know, you're better equipped to be able to see what it would have been like for them.
Yeah, definitely.
know?
This is all about, like, again, like, if you haven't seen our last video where we spoke about responsibility.
Yeah.
And when you can take 100% responsibility for your life, you can actually impact your life and make a difference in your life and have something else show up. So if you haven't seen it, watch it, because it'll really kind of support you.
It will help this part of,
this part
you know,
of
if
it.
that comes up. Then,
Yeah. Because because we can see that these happen, and that's something we can touch on another time.
Yeah.
But where was I going with it?
Were you going to past?
Hey?
Past relationships? Or?
Yeah, past relationships. Yes, thank you.
So we've talked about role models and not knowing, you know, like what a relationship looks like.
Yeah, and it's also we don't have, like, in life, like, I definitely didn't have a role model of men that were emotionally, like, and that's also part of it, right? We don't have role models of what it is to be a true man, and that's something we're going to touch upon later on as well, like the influences and things like that, how that gets impacted. So do you want to touch up on the past relationships?
So past relationships, I guess we can touch on what I sort of brought into this relationship was a feeling of not being appreciated. So I realised when I look back at all of my relationships that there was this blind spot. And that in every single relationship that I had, I would always end up feeling unappreciated, no matter what it was. And I realised when I got into a relationship with you that it was actually something that was already within me, like we talked about and touched on at the beginning of this video. It was already something that was within me, but in all my other relationships, I was blaming the other person for making me feel unappreciated. And then it wasn't till I got with him and realised that, shit, this is something, like, I keep having the same relationships with people, but they're different people. What's going on? There's got to be something going on. It's not just all these other people. It can't just be all these other people. It's got to be something with me. So it forced me to look deep within and look at what was actually going on. And what I discovered was that I had a very low sense of self-worth. So even though, and it kind of played out in the relationship that I just give, and this is based on the conditional love, which is the old template of constantly giving, and then you're a martyr. You know, you're self-sacrificing all the time, and then when you don't get something in return for what you've given out, then you're not appreciated, and then you blame the other person that, you know, they're not giving anything back. I should be getting exactly what I put out. Yeah. And that's conditional. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a pattern that I brought into. There's many other patterns, and we will talk about them in other videos. But for this main point, that was a pattern that I was bringing into this relationship, because it was all past relationships that it was happening in. Yeah.
Beautiful. And it is. And I just want to say hi to Nins, because she just joined us. What's up, Nins? Thanks for joining us. It's awesome to have you here.
Love it.
And we bring a lot of stuff into a relationship, you know, from past relationship. And I had the same. I had my own commitment issues, right, that I didn't see that were there. Like, before I got into this relationship, I only had one serious relationship in my 29 years. And for me, that wasn't like a big commitment issue. I'm like, I just didn't find the right one. Right? So coming into the relationship, like, I had this also blind spot that I didn't actually see, that I'm just kind of like bumping up against something. And it really took something to see what was in the way. Like, I really had to go internal and go, what's going on? Like, what's in the way? And because of my past relationship, I perceived that I was controlled. Like, I didn't have a way out.
He was forced.
That I was forced, and it was all that sort of stuff. And and I was always afraid now to go into the next relationship having that happen again. So I'll never fully commit because I go, what if I commit and then I can't get out? Then I'm like, I'm stuck. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm trapped, right? This feeling of trapped.
Being trapped.
Oh, God. So dramatic. Right? But
it's very real.
Yeah, but it's very real at the time, right? So when I could see that and uncover that blind spot that was like literally preventing me from moving forward with our relationship, and when I could deal with that and let that go, like literally the day after I made the commitment to go out with Annalie and take things further, and then I could meet her kids, and the rest kind of just naturally progressed from there. And it just happened from removing that blind spot. And when I could see like, holy shit, this is what was stopping me from actually committing and moving forward, then I could let that go and commit, and like the rest just flowed so much easier.
It's because you could make a choice.
Yes.
Once you're aware of your blind spot or patterns and blocks and beliefs and all those things that come up in a relationship, once you're able to uncover them and see them for what they are, because it's very hard to look at yourself, and we know this, it's so hard to look at yourself and be completely honest that you are this.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't want to believe that I was self-sacrificing and I was a martyr. You know, because I judged that in myself. You know, and you didn't want to admit to yourself that you were afraid of commitment.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I can commit. I had this and I had that, and I could do it. And yeah, it's
very hard to do,
but to look at.
But once you can uncover it, then you've got a choice.
Yeah.
You can either play it out, or you can choose another way.
Yeah. And then you always have choice, and and it's being able to recognize it. And it's not like this stuff just goes away and disappears. It's like it's a constant work. Every now and again it'll rear its ugly head there, and I can just notice and go, oh, thank you. And it's about loving it. This is like the way to heal is to love that part of yourself. It's just a part of you that hasn't gotten love. It's like that inner child. That inner child, when we get triggered in a relationship, is how to deal with that, is to love that part of you. Whatever gets triggered, it's like, how do I bring love to that part of me that's angry, that's upset right now, that's blaming, that's making the other person wrong? How do I love that aspect of myself and love it? Because it's just a wounded inner child that gets triggered and screaming and yelling that it didn't receive love. And if you can just love that inner child, you can hold it and just go, wow, you're not that anymore. You didn't receive love from your dad or your mum or whatever that is, or in the relationship, but you can love that inner child now. You can love that small part of you that didn't receive the love that it so wanted. And that's all we want. Because
we go through life ignoring the inner child.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a safe space to express either. Like that's what I feel like from my experience, is that I didn't have a capacity to emotionally let those feelings out, because again, my mum didn't have that capacity either to do that, because she wasn't taught how to express herself emotionally. So then I took on that trait as well. And you know, like you go through life ignoring your inner child. When you're not able to give voice to that little child, you're ignoring it. And it's like if your best friend came, or your best friend called you up and said, hey, like I really need to talk this out. I'm, you know, feeling all these feelings and it's really hurting me. Can you like just listen? And then they just blurt out all this stuff, and instantly they feel better because they can let it out. And that's like you going, hold on, no, I don't think I want to listen to you right now. That's what you're doing to your inner child. Yeah.
Or it's like you tell your friend, you shouldn't be like this. Get better. Feel better. What are you doing? Why are you feeling like this?
And that's an inner dialogue that happens within us.
Yeah. It's like, why am I angry? I shouldn't be angry. And we want to resist what comes up for us.
Because it's pain.
Yeah.
That's what comes up. It's pain. And that pain, like we've been taught to avoid that pain. You know, but that's where we need to go.
Yeah. That's where the healing, and that's where it's actually, what the suffering is you resisting what is. It's like, this shouldn't be. Like this feeling how I'm feeling right now shouldn't be. So when we resist that, that's where the suffering comes from, because we think we should be somewhere else, but we're here.
Yeah.
But if we can just allow ourselves to just be in whatever we are, if we're confused or if we're bored, it's like have a cigarette and have a drink and to kill off those emotions. But it's like if we can just be with I'm bored and sit there and just be with bored. It's like, okay, I'm bored. Let me just be with that. And then you don't resist that. You just allow boredom to be there. Then that will pass. And then there will be another emotion, and it'll be something else that will show up. You might get an argument and there's frustration, but if we don't resist that and blame ourselves, like, I shouldn't be frustrated. If you can just allow whatever's there to be there
and to move
through your body and not resist it and just allow it and love it.
And you can let it go.
Yeah, and that's in that loving it is where it goes. But if you try to love it so it goes away, it's not going to work.
It's not in order to go away.
It's just literally, you just love it. And sometimes we don't know how, and it's just sitting there and going, I don't know how to love this right now.
Yeah, and that's accepting what is, because you don't actually know how to love whatever's moving through you.
Yeah.
So it's more of just an acceptance of what is. Like if you're confused, I'm confused. It's acceptance. It's acknowledgement. Yeah. Acknowledgement, like acknowledging the inner child within you, you know?
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So, what did you want to speak about? Anything else with past relationships? Because I wanted to go into with all these relationships in your life. And I'm going to go a little bit woo-woo here. Because this perspective has really helped me in my relationships. And we attended a seminar with Wayne Dyer, and he shared a bit about his father. And if you don't know the story, you might want to Google it. But he spoke about his father. His father was an alcoholic, I think, or he wasn't present. He left them when he was young, and his mother was a single mother. She had to go to work, which meant that she couldn't care for the kids, so the kids had to go into an orphanage. And he grew up with a lot of resentment towards his dad. So where I'm kind of going with this is basically with my ex-partner, I had a lot of resentment towards him. And what we sort of don't realize is that we all chose to come here, to incarnate here, to learn and grow and expand as a soul. And we make agreements before we come here to learn different lessons from each other. And these relationships were all contracted before we came here. So every single relationship that you have with your mum, your dad, any of your partners, they all agreed to do these things in order for you to grow and expand.
Yeah.
And this perspective really helped me heal and forgive and let go of my ex-partner. Because there was a lot of suffering and a lot of resentment that I held towards him. And blame, and I really had to work through that and realize that it was all coming from love in order. And if that didn't happen, if I didn't have that relationship, or if I didn't have the relationship I had with my parents, or go through any of the things that I went through, I would not be the person that I am. Like, my ex-partner was my greatest teacher. And it's looking at it from a perspective of what am I here to learn? What is this relationship trying to teach me?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I think that's what I wanted to share in terms of the soul aspect.
Yeah.
Because there's soul contracts.
It's so important.
It's very awesome. Important. So and there's certain karmas that need to be balanced as well, and all of that is decided. It's already been done before we come here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all for us to evolve and learn something about it. Like, Annalie inside that relationship had to learn forgiveness.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just forgiveness to her ex, it was forgiving herself.
Myself.
So when you can forgive, and we all come to learn certain things in life. And if we don't learn that lesson through relationships, they're constantly going to happening.
Which is the patterns.
Yeah, it's a pattern.
Which is the patterns that show up in your relationship. So it's like if patterns keep showing up in your relationship, ask the question.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to learn here?
Yeah.
You know, like if you're having the same relationship with a different partner, what is it? What is that I need to learn?
Yeah.
You know, because the universe will keep bringing you people that are going to elicit that lesson.
And it's just going to get louder.
It will get very loud.
If you keep avoiding it, it'll just get louder. Like the problem will get worse. It'll just get worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
Until it reaches, for some people, really low.
Well, that was the case for me because I had that pattern in other relationships, but it got to a point where it was so toxic, you know, and I couldn't be in that relationship anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what happens. If you don't learn your lesson, it'll keep happening.
Yeah.
You don't want to come back again and do it all over again. You
want
to learn the lesson in this lifetime, not in the next one.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else for you?
I think we touched on taking responsibility and communication.
Yeah.
And again, if you didn't tune in to last week's video, have a look at that.
Yeah.
And a lot of inner work.
Yes, this is all about inner work. And the topics we're going to cover, and these are two big topics this week and last week, like responsibility and relationship, the
lack of role models
and past relationships and parents. It brings up a lot of things through
stuff.
Because we learn everything, finances through our parents, it all
ties
in and goes through that. So the other topics are really going to be immersed and emerged.
They're all going to be interwoven.
Interwoven, and how they impact each other and how that impacts the relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess like again we touched on you know, the new template and the old template, and you know, recognizing these patterns is you know, being conscious of these patterns and these triggers you know, allows you to have the choice to step into the new template.
Yeah.
So I think we'll touch on that, I think, in another video about that.
Yeah, sounds good.
I think we've talked enough.
Yeah, and it's really important to have the new template, because there's so much more possible. I think that's what you're kind of touching on, because when we stay in the old template, it's very difficult. Like, we're unconscious.
You're on a hamster wheel.
So when you come into the new template, become conscious, deal with your stuff. There's freedom, there's a total level of communication and what's possible in the relationship.
And then you get to be that example for your children.
Yeah, and that's so important.
So important.
Yeah.
Future of humanity, you know, they're our future.
Yeah, and there's something else possible, and this is what we're so passionate about, because we lived both of the template. We lived the relationship.
This is way better.
Yeah, this is so much nicer, right? So we're so passionate. We want everyone to experience what we experience in our relationship, and everyone actually can. Yeah. But it takes
a lot of work and
commitment to actually having the relationship that you actually want.
And I think it's important, like, you know, just to bring awareness that you do have a choice. Some people are so resigned that there's no other way, and this is the only way that they can experience their relationship. But there is another way.
So if you're interested in actually finding out how you could have another way of relationship, or how looking at some barriers and blocks that you might have that you might not even know.
Yeah.
Because you start actually unpacking your baggage. It's so important in a relationship when you can start to unpack your baggage. Something else can show up when you can see your blind spots, when you can remove blockages and barriers towards your love, to experiencing the relationship that you really want. So if you're interested in that, let us know.
Yeah.
Let us know how we can support you. So, because we offer 15-minute complimentary sessions, so we can let's have a chat. Let's have a look at what's in the way for you, what's stopping you, how you can move forward. And if you're interested in that, just comment below. 15 minutes. The number 15. The number 15. Just comment in the comment section or privately message us, because I know some people get a little bit shy. Just comment and inbox us and let us know, and we'll send you a link how you can actually book a session with us, because we really see the value in doing the work and supporting, and we all need help, because we have our own coaches, we have our own thing. It's we don't do this alone.
No.
And it's so important to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Anything else for you?
Well, I'm just going to plug for next week.
Next week.
Join us next week. It's the 15th of March, Wednesday again at 7 p.m. We're going to be looking at outside influences and how they impact your relationship.
Yes, and it's a big one as well, because we're talking about media and how that influences us and how we perceive things. So it'll be a really good one to tie this as well. Yeah,
they all tie into each other. So, Alrighty, that's us. We're signing off. And we'll see you all next week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.